Hey everybody, how's it going? In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you my fragrance spraying technique. And ever since I started doing this, I haven't been going as nose blind to fragrances as I once did before. Now, just a quick reminder, this technique isn't going to completely eliminate going nose blind to a fragrance because that's normal. And I've made a video as to why that is, so you can YouTube that if you want to. But when I started doing this routine and this technique, it's just really been endless compliments because people around me can smell me, all right? So I'm gonna explain to you why I hit those spots right after I show you. So I do one behind each ear, and then I do one on the back of my neck, and then I do the fourth one behind one shoulder blade and the fifth one behind the other shoulder blade. Now, I spray behind each ear because behind each ear is a pulse point, and that helps to radiate the fragrance outward. Now, I do it behind my neck just because it helps with the scent trail. And a lot of people ask, they're like, well, if you don't do it on your hair, then it's a waste because nobody's gonna smell it. There is such thing as putting your hair up. So for me, I like to spray it behind my neck, and I don't like applying it on hair just because I don't want to chance the alcohol sort of drying out my hair, because that is a thing with some people. They're not really fazed by it, or it doesn't really affect their hair that much. But for me, I just don't want to take that risk. Now, I do it behind each shoulder blade just because that also helps with my scent trail. And if somebody is next to me, they can also smell it. So this technique literally creates the perfect scent bubble for you. So when I go to hug somebody, they can smell me because I've got the fragrance behind each ear. When somebody's next to me, they smell it because the fragrance is pushing off of my shoulder blade. And when they're behind me, they have the back of my neck and the backs of my shoulder blades. So I'm just wrapped in a delicious fragrance bubble for however long the fragrance will last. Now, a big question I get is, oh my gosh, aren't you bathing yourself in your fragrance? That's way too much. I could never. That would choke me out, blah, 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 blah. Of course, adjust it based on how strong or how weak your fragrance is. Because with a weak scent, like La Nuit de l'Homme, for example, I have done 17 sprays of this fragrance when I went out at night. And to some of you, you might be like, holy shit, that's so much. This is a skin scent, all right? This thing barely even lasts. I wore it that night. I did the 17 sprays. I didn't choke myself out, and the women around me loved it. So it didn't choke them out as well, and it became a noticeable fragrance because this thing hardly ever projects. So you really have to kind of use a lot of it to give the effect that you want if you want it to project, all right? So with weak scents, you can hit the same 5 spots that I showed, and you can just maybe do that 2 or 3 times, like with La Nuit de l'Homme. Now, with a strong fragrance like Side Effect by Initio, I only do 1 spray, at max 2, and you can totally switch it up if you want to. But for me, I do 1 spray of this either behind my neck or just on the back of my shirt, because this thing will literally just wrap around me. I don't have to spray it in front of me for me to be able to detect the smell or to smell it just wafting off of me. So with strong scents, you could stick to 1 to 2, and you can pick one of the areas that I sprayed if that will help you out. But yeah, just always adjust it based on the strength or the weakness of your fragrance. Now, when it comes to spraying on your wrist, this is a very common thing that a lot of people do. For me, it's just not my cup of tea because, for one, when I'm eating, I don't like constantly smelling a fragrance like as I'm eating. For example, if I'm wearing something like Side Effect and I'm eating pho, it's just like, it's gonna clash, you know. I don't like that. And on top of that, I wash my hands several times in a day. So I'm pretty much, in my mind, it's like I'm wasting the fragrance because I'm constantly just washing it off all day. Now, if you wanna apply on like the inner part of your elbow, you can do that as well, because this is a pulse point and this is also a pulse point. And just kind of a quick suggestion, or recommendation, don't rub in your fragrance, all right? I've made a separate video as to why you shouldn't. Just YouTube my name and how to not apply a fragrance, and you should see that pop up. But yeah, just avoid rubbing in your fragrance. And the second thing I would avoid is spraying in this front neck area, and ladies, in your your cleavage area. And the reason for that is because the skin here is super sensitive, and you have to remember you are applying alcohol to it, so it can actually make your skin wrinkle faster. And I think that's something that you would want to prevent as long as possible. You would want that to be a natural thing instead of assisting that process. And that is actually a common mistake I see a lot of people do, because they'll be in my DM saying, I apply like 10 sprays of my fragrance and I can't smell it and blah, 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 blah. And when I ask how they apply it, they'll say that they'll apply on the front of their neck like this. And for me, this is a no-go, not just because of the wrinkle thing that I told you about, but also you have to remember, if you're spraying right here, you're right underneath your nose. So if you're hitting like 5 to 10 sprays right here, you are overworking your nose, and you're just gonna go nose blind so fast to your fragrance. I made another video as to why you go nose blind to your scent as well, if you wanna check that one out. But yeah, just give your nose a break. Your scent is definitely there, but you also don't wanna quickly choke yourself out. And I think that's a reason why a lot of people, when they see I do 5 sprays, they kind of freak out, because they typically apply their scent either here like this, or they'll apply like this and they'll kind of like rub it into their neck. And then they themselves will be like, oh, wow, that's way too much. I'm getting a headache. So just avoid this area. And I would really suggest trying the technique that I showed you in the beginning of this video, because this has not only helped me a lot, but I have subscribers that have taken that technique now, and they are literally getting endless compliments with their fragrances when they go out. So I know when you're wearing a scent and you're going to a party or something like that, and other people can smell it on you and they really like it on you, it's a good feeling, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't want you to have like 5 to 10 sprays on and nobody can smell you that night and you can't smell yourself, you know? So this technique has really, really helped. Let me know if you end up using it, and let me just see if there's any other things that I'm missing out on in this video. There are some women that like to apply it behind their knees. And if you're freaky, you can apply it on your ankles. I don't have to explain why. You should just know it. If you're like that, you know what I mean? That does help. But in terms of hair, yeah, I typically avoid hair, but you can do that if you want to. I've seen people, like my girlfriend sprays it into her hair, and her hair is still really strong, thick, healthy. It doesn't really affect her, and it's a very strong scent carrier. Oh, this is the last thing I want to say. So with, like, you can do this same application on clothes. All right, so you could spray the same routine I did on clothes. It's gonna help the scent last longer. Instead of behind each ear, you could just do it here. 1, 2, and then just 3, 4 in the middle of your back, 5. And you'll be perfectly fine. This is especially a great technique for people that are, their skin is sensitive. If you have like eczema or anything like that, this really, really helps. So you can smell great, but you don't have to worry about getting itchy or getting any sort of allergy to it, all right? Hope this helped. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.